Little 500. The 1983 Little 500 is brought to you by Budweiser, proud sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Indiana National, pioneers in banking, and Roadmaster Corporation. Come ride with us. Now let's join the voice of IU basketball, Don Fisher, with Max Skirvin.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, where this afternoon we bring you one of the most exciting college events in the country, the Little 500. This year, the 33rd annual Little 500 event, a bicycle race that has brought about the imagination of Hollywood producers to bring about a major motion picture, Breaking Away. And today, this 33rd annual event will be one of the most exciting ever. Max Skirvin alongside us today, and we look forward, Max, to a tremendous race and one that we're looking forward to being very exciting throughout the day.
Don, since we moved into the new facilities, which you have here, the new track, the new stadium, which was dedicated just yesterday, this event has really become a rather speed event. The speeds have really picked up. The track was made especially for bicycle racing, and it's really a great afternoon. Should be about 30,000 people here.
We look forward, Max, to a number of things today, but one of those factors involved is the way this race is set up. It's set up exactly almost like the Indianapolis 500 Motor Speedway race that has been synonymous with motorsport racing for years and years.
Well, it has, and of course, you go back to a guy by the name of Howdy Wilcox, whose father drove in the 500-mile race way back in the early 1900s sometime, and Howdy was the director here of the IU Foundation back in the late 40s, early 50s, and he saw some kids riding around a building and thought that might be a good thing to do. He had no idea, I'm sure, it would be built into what it is today, but nevertheless, here we have, and it's 33 teams, 4 riders each will compete. They'll be exchanging all afternoon long, and it comes down to a trophy dash at the end.
Max, they run in a pack during the race. One of the factors that has to be involved is how dangerous is it out there?
Well, it can be serious, but it's for the most part, when the bikes do go down, and occasionally they do go down, it's scrapes and bruises for the most part. Occasionally a broken bone will occur, but the reason for much of the pack is they don't want to let anybody get away from them. Secondly, those riding in the pack in the second and third and on back are getting some windbreak back there. There definitely is a drafting going on here. And of course, this afternoon, I think the weather's going to be a factor. It's cool here, and the wind is whipping up pretty good, so no question that the wind's going to be a factor.
The fans really get into it, don't they?
They do, because each housing unit or whatever it is that the team represents here are seated behind the pit of the teams, and the ones that are really in contention, they really get noisy.
Well, of course, this stadium was dedicated yesterday, and a man who has been involved for many, many years, Bill Armstrong. We'll meet him in a moment.
Watch these fingers. At no time while operating a money mover 24-hour teller will they do anything complicated, as they perform a variety of important banking functions. Look simple? It is. Convenient, too.
Here is the starting field for today's race, the 33 positions. Sigma Chi has the pole position in row number 1. Phi Delta Theta is in the middle of the first row, with Beta Theta Pi in the outside position. Sigma Pi Epsilon is in the inside of row 2. Parks is in the middle, and Alpha Tau Omega on the outside. The third row has Sigma Pi, Rollins House, and Acacia. Row 4, Team Anything, Phi Gamma Delta, and Sigma Alpha Mu. In the fifth row, Alpha Epsilon Pi, Kappa Sigma, and Delta Tau Delta. In the sixth row, Chi Phi, Dodds House, and Jenkins. In the seventh row, Alpha Sigma Phi, Lambda Chi Alpha, and Wheelman. In row 8, Sigma Nu, Zeta Beta Tau, and Tau Kappa Epsilon. In the ninth row is Foster Martin 3, Delta Upsilon, and Phi Kappa Psi. Sigma Alpha Epsilon is in row 10. Chain gang Reed Curry 4, and Pi Kappa Phi. And in the 11th row, Nichols House, Hummer House, and Blitzkriegers. And they are ready to get started. The green flag is up and they are off on the little 500. And Sigma Chi, who won the pole position, has taken the early lead here, Max. And Phi Delta Theta, who was the outstanding racer last year and winning this event, is in second place right now.
Certainly is, and Jim Mahaffey is riding in the number 2 spot now. He was injured a couple of weeks ago, and only this morning was it determined that he was cleared to ride. He's riding in number 2, the young man with the green helmet.
A very safe start here at the outset. This is a cinder track, but it's packed down very hard. And now suddenly we have a new leader, and this is Phi Delta Theta and Jim Mahaffey from Orlando, Florida, who has taken about a 2-bike lead. They're jammed up, Max, very heavily in the middle of the pack right now. That has to be a dangerous spot.
Well, they'll ride most of the afternoon. Unfortunately, from some of our standpoints, they stay bunched like that. But see, the thing you've got to remember, they have ridden miles and miles and miles this last month in that kind of a bunch. So this is really nothing new to these riders at the moment. But we've got a new leader as we come by again. Beta Theta Pi had picked it up there just for a second. Nobody apparently wants to be the guy that breaks the wind as they come down through there, because the wind is blowing quite hard here in spots and down the back stretch especially.
Right now, about a 3-bike lead. And it's Wheelman's in front right now, Max, and they've come from a pretty good distance back. They were in 21st starting position, and Wheelman suddenly has taken a 3-bike lead in this race. They're bunched very well in the middle. Everything is very tight. There are a couple of bikers at the very back of the pack that are trailing quite badly at this point, but nevertheless Wheelman has done an excellent job of coming up in this race.
And Jenkins has also moved up. They were just in the row just ahead, and they've moved up into second just a moment ago.
Max, drafting is a very important factor in this race. How much of a factor is it, and is that why they keep so much into a pack in the inside?
Well, they keep into a pack, of course, for a couple of reasons. They don't want to let anybody get away from them, or break away, as they call it. Drafting is important because they say that you can save about 30% of your energy or something like that should you'd be able to ride behind somebody instead of being the man out in front. And of course right now it's the Lambda Kais that are out there in front as they cross the line on this 3rd lap. So they've moved up also from well back in the field.
Jenkins right now is very high on the list as well, and we have a new leader now as they've moved into a new position once again. It is Delta Tau Delta that has taken over the lead. But they are bunched extremely well. In fact, Max, right now, 31 of those riders are all bunched together with just 2 riders way back in the pack.
They're exchanging leads almost all the time because they're trying to let somebody else set the pace here, I think, is their strategy at the moment. Many of these teams have strategy they try to work on, and now we've moved back out again with Sigma Chi moving out in front again, and we've had our first man go down on right in front on an exchange, apparently a bad exchange, number 26.
Delta Upsilon is the team that went down, and bad exchange is right, Max, but they have gone across the new rider has taken over. Tim Palma, Max, is an outstanding rider for Phi Delta Theta, and he apparently is, or rather for Sigma Chi, and he apparently set the pace early.
It's not just a race. It's a game. If they think I'm tired, maybe they'll make their move. Then I'll make mine.
Bring out your best.
You gotta reach deep inside.
Bring out your best.
Come on, bring out that pride.
Bring out your best.
The best never comes easy. That's why there's nothing else like it. Budweiser Light.
Bring out your best.
Budweiser Light.
Bring out your best.
Budweiser Light.
Bring out your best.
The best. You found it in yourself, and now you've found it in the beer you drink.
Budweiser.
We've moved along in the little 500 bicycle race. We're at lap 40, and Max, we have some updates on the standings. We had an accident, though, just momentarily a couple of moments ago, in which the yellow flag is currently out.
We'll pick that up in just a moment. Here are the standings officially, however, at the end of 20 laps. Phi Gamma Delta was leading at that point. Delta Tau Delta was second. Alpha Epsilon Pi was third. Phi Kappa Psi was fourth. Phi Delta Theta was fifth at that time, and the speed through the first 20 laps was 24 miles per hour, 24.36. But as you did indicate, we have had a couple of yellow flags or a couple of wrecks with one yellow flag, which we're now under a yellow flag. The yellow flag at the moment is because of the accident by the Lambda Chi Alpha team. The exchange area is down in the third corner, and that's where the wind is blowing the most severe as they come down that straightaway, and he actually got into the outside wall, much as you would have, and now the green flag is back out, and they're racing again, and the number one team is Sigma Phi Epsilon in the lead with the Acacia as number 2, and the Phi Delts are number 3.
So that's our, as they go to the green flag once again, they are racing on the course, and we have had an outstanding race thus far with tremendous number of lead changes, as you might expect, Max. But as the pack has now started to stretch out even more, there are a lot more riders all around the track. There is still, however, a good-sized pack that is coming across the start-finish line right now, and the Phi Delta Thetas have taken over the leadership.
There are about, looks to be about a dozen riders all bunched out there together, maybe a few more, 15. I can't count them that quite as fast as they go by, but at any rate, here's the Phi Delts now making an exchange on the far side, and that will, of course, affect their standings, and we'll have to check as they come back around again. It looks as if it might be Jenkins' house, who now has gone back out in the lead, perhaps number 18. We'll catch them as they come back by again.
We'll go back now to a little bit earlier in the race, and lap number 28, where we had an accident involving 3 different teams: Zeta Beta Tau, Chain Gang Curry, and Alpha Sigma Pi. And Max, I believe most of that took place as they were headed for the pits.
They were coming around, I think, around a corner, and there you see him go down. It was the number 29 there is or 19 Alpha Sigma Phi. He clears through. The Chain Gang, number 29, goes down first, and Zeta Beta Tau, he takes it with him. But you can see as they jump back up and go, some of these accidents look to be a little bit more serious than they are, and it was just a case they tumbled into the infield, and out they come once again. Now we're back to live action once again, as the pack once again is trying to break away, and you see the number 3 team, Beta Theta Pi, they're breaking away as if probably on an exchange as he swings to the outside and on the far side of the track.
The real only threat in this race, Max, of a real breakaway was by Kappa Sigma earlier, but that didn't work too well.
They did. They pulled out to perhaps a 100-yard lead at one point, but they dropped back, and it's been very much of a pack. As we were listening to the public address a moment ago, the young man who, in breaking away, was portrayed as Dave Stoller is actually Dave Blaze, and he is talking down to the people here assembled here this afternoon. His comments were a moment ago, though it's going to be very difficult for anybody to break away here today because this track is wide, as we had indicated, and the riders can run right through the curves at full speed. They don't have to slow down for anything, so it's very difficult for anybody, any one person, unless you're really a superior bicyclist, to move out and make a breakaway. And you can see here that that's exactly what's happening this afternoon, as the pack's staying right in there.
We're with the new president of the Indiana University Foundation, George Pinnell. And George, congratulations on your appointment as the new president. You've been in office for a couple of months. This is your first Indiana 500, the little 500 bike race. And just some thoughts about your feelings going into today's race.
Well, this is my first one as president of the foundation, of course, but it's not my first bike race. I've been around here since Methuselah, as a matter of fact. But I've always been a Bill Armstrong supporter at this race, and all of a sudden the roles have been reversed, and I'm depending on Bill Armstrong instead of the other way around.
What about the race itself? Your duties as getting this thing going each year, is it a difficult assignment?
It really is not a difficult assignment for me, I think it was for Bill. We take a lot of interest in it and offer to help out and so forth, but this is a student-run operation, and I am absolutely amazed at how well the students manage this whole affair. They're responsible. They get the credit.
They call it the Little 500, but the athletes who race in it know how big it really is. And out of this grueling competition for over 30 years comes the tradition of Roadmaster. Roadmaster bicycles. They've been pushed and punished, proven and improved. Frames are lighter and stronger. Components are tougher, more dependable. Roadmaster. It's a name you can count on for pleasure, for exercise, for unforgettable thrills. Roadmaster. Come ride with us.
Psst, hey, did you know you can stay close to your cash even when you're miles from your bank? Uh-huh. All you need are your fingers. And a Money Mover 24-hour teller. Just give your fingers this Money Mover card, and they'll punch up instant cash from home in about 50 Indiana cities and towns. So whether you're out on business, on campus, or stalking the wild vacation, remember, stay in touch when you travel with the Money Mover 24-hour teller. And your fingers, of course.
This buzz for everyone who knows they've got what it takes to get the job.
This buzz for you, for all you do. The king of beers is coming through.
Yeah, just for you, that distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
For all you do.
Hey, this bud's for you.
We're on lap 95, nearing the halfway mark of this 200-mile event this afternoon. And we have had a number of incidents on the day, but of course, everyone interested at this point in the standings. The official standings at this point on lap 90, Acacia was leading the race with Phi Delta Theta in second place, Phi Gamma Delta in third, Phi Kappa Psi in fourth, and the wheelman in fifth. We just had an incident a couple of moments ago involving two of the top teams, Alpha Tau Omega and Phi Gamma Delta. And this happened in the front straightaway, Max.
It did indeed. Right in front of us, team number 6 is the ATO house, and number 11 is the Phi Gams, and they are two of the top contenders. They were on the lead lap along with 9 other teams, so you can see that that's going to hurt their chances. There's the Phi Gam young man running back to pick up his bike. And now we're back to live action once again as we take a look at the teams who at this point are on the leader lap. And at the point we got this list, there were only 11 teams on the lead lap, meaning the other 22 had dropped back at least a lap behind. And there you see them. All of these, not necessarily in the order that you see them, but all of them on the lead lap at this point, all of them still contenders. So you can see what can happen as we come down to the final. Should this remain the same, all 11 of these could be making a dash for that checkered flag at the end.
So we're past the 100 lap point. We still have 100 laps to go, or about 99 at this point. The leaders are on the 101st lap of this race. The pack continues strong. The Phi Delts look very good this afternoon. They've run a very smooth race throughout. We've had a number of incidents today. Last year, no yellow flags in this race, but today already 3. So we've had 4 or 5 accidents that has brought the yellow out 3 different times.
We put the clock on the Phi Delt team once again. We timed them a little while ago. They turned in a lap at slightly over 36 seconds. That's a pretty good moving out there, and they're running about that speed. They're running a little bit slower this year than last year. The last report on speed we had, they were down around the 23-mile-an-hour speed mark, which is about a mile an hour slower than they ran last year. But of course the yellow flag of course affects that because they must slow down. Now Phi Delt coming back around here, they're 33 seconds, 34, 35, 36, 37, approximately 38 seconds as on that lap. So they've slowed down just a little bit as they've hit this middle. Right now, Don, of course, the old legs are really beginning to ache out there now. They've churned up a lot of miles. 25 miles already have been clicked off here, and you're beginning to feel that fatigue.
And now, of course, is when the conditioning and the stamina come into play, with only just a little over under half the race remaining here this afternoon. Phi Delta Theta, Max, has run so smoothly here today, you just wonder when the wheels might come off, so to speak.
Well, they're coming by once again as they're crossing the finish line. They have a pretty good lead now, maybe 50 yards or so. We'll see if they're going to make an exchange or are they just simply moving away. And it appears that they are now moving away. They are not making an exchange as they have picked up a lot of ground on the rest of the pack now. Let's see if anybody comes out to chase them as they are moving down the backside straightaway back there into the third corner. And you can see the lead now that they have on the rest of them. Moving up out of that pack, it appears to be the Sigma Phi Epsilon, perhaps as they come by, we'll check it. Where's the blue shirt? Check that number. It is Sigma Pi Epsilon chasing him there. But you can see the Phi Delts now have moved out to a pretty good lead here. They are the defending champs who won here last year in a most thrilling race over the Delta Chi as the two men chased down to the finish line in a most exciting finish. But now the the Phi Delta Thetas are starting to slow down a bit, and the pack is catching.
This bud's for everyone who takes on the heavy loads.
This bud's for you. For all you do. The king of beers is coming through.
Yeah, just for you, that distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
For all you do. This bud's for you.
Hey, did you know you can stay close to your cash even when you're miles from your bank? Uh-huh. All you need are your fingers. And a Money Mover 24-hour teller. Just give your fingers this Money Mover card, and they'll punch up instant cash from home in about 50 Indiana cities and towns. So whether you're out on business, on campus, or stalking the wild vacation, remember, stay in touch when you travel with the Money Mover 24-hour teller. And your fingers, of course.
Daisy, Daisy, I've got a bike that's new. We'll go riding on a bicycle built for two. Oh, we can play together, no matter what the weather. Then we'll go outside and take a ride on our bicycle built for two.
Daisy riders come in 2- and 3-wheel models. All include Daisy Doll.
Daisy, Daisy.
This is the new Indiana University football coach, Sam White. And Sam, this is your first little 500 a year first for you. Just some thoughts about being here today.
Well, I started last night, the Mini 500. I was one of the timers at the Mini 500. A new experience, to say the least. I think I was out of my element. And this is one of those exciting times. It doesn't matter what happens now. You got the crowd here. The bicycles are going around the track. Everything's going to be a good day. Weather's not going to disappoint anybody.
Sam, this event, of course, is unique around the country. Nothing can really rally a campus more than something like this, can it?
I don't think so, unless, of course, you're 11-0 and you just won the Big Ten in basketball or something like that, like Indiana has done. But we are experiencing this, of course, for the first time. When I was in Cincinnati, you heard about all of this. It was kind of like a golf ball hitting a tile bathroom. You know, you could hear all that stuff ricocheting off, and you wonder what's going on. We're glad to be a part of it.
Sam, your first year here, just a thought about Indiana University and its campus.
Well, I got recruited. That's why I'm here to begin with, because I was doing something I was enjoying in pro football, but I thought I'd like this even better, and I have not been disappointed. This is as advertised, and the kids have been great. The players, the men have been great. They're not kids, really, and the coaching staff and the staff and people like you have just been so supportive. So I'm not worried about anything. I just stand around and don't mess it up.
We're almost to lap 130 here this afternoon at the Little 500 bike race, and we have had an outstanding race thus far. As we take a look at the standings at lap 120, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, who's moved up extremely well during this race from the 28th starting position, has taken over the leadership. Acacia is second, Phi Kappa Psi is third, Phi Delta Theta is fourth, and Alpha Tau Omega is number 5 right now, and that is after 120 laps of this 200-mile event. And Max, as we look at these riders out there, again, that stamina becoming a factor, but they are keeping the average speed at a very steady clip this afternoon, just over 23 miles per hour.
Just slightly under 24, Don. 23.9 was the official one at that last juncture. The SAEs have the best qualifying overall in all the races, but they had a bad qualification this year. They got their qualification in on their third attempt. You have 3 attempts. The first 2, they had problems, and so they had to qualify and play it very safe on their qualification, and they started 28th, but they obviously are a good team, and should they continue to hold the lead and win, they, of course, would be the first team to come that far from the back to win this thing. No team has ever won this thing starting worse than 14th position. We've had a couple of winners start from that position. We've had one from 11th and a couple from 10th. Otherwise, most of them have started inside the first 4 or 5. In fact, the pole team has won 5 different races. But some of these fraternities, of course, have a great long history in this race, and the alums who have ridden before come back and help them and so forth. And you see a slight exchange problem down on the right as team number 23, the Zeta Beta Tau, who has had a couple of problems here this afternoon, have a bad exchange, but the young man is up and riding.
Max, as we look at the pack out there, everyone seems to be pretty much together, but in fact only 10 of these teams are on the same lap.
That's right. At the moment, as we look at the 125 mark, the Phi Delta Theta, I keep getting the wrong fraternity in there, the Phi Delta Theta has the lead at the moment, whereas team number 21, the Wheelmen, have moved into second. The Acacias are third at the end of 125 laps. Have a bad exchange of Phi size right down in front of us, having another problem. The ATOs resting in 4th place at the moment, and after an exchange, the SAEs have dropped back to 5th. It's not too difficult to drop back pretty quickly. Chi Phi is now in 6th. The number 4 team at the moment is, they made him move again, to number 7. That is the Sigma Phi Epsilon. As we take a look at the first 7 places as they continue to ride in bunches, as we are now moving into lap 134 as they come by here again right in front of us.
Max, one final comment here at the moment. There are only 2 seconds separating the top 10 teams in this race.
This is about the way it's gone the past few years, and as we talked at the beginning of the broadcast, when you have them in that close, when it comes down to those final 2 laps, it's which team has the strongest sprinter. And of course, we've got some guys who are really strong sprinters. The SAEs have a fine one in Ron Repka, the Sigma Chi's and Tim Palma, of course, the Phi Delts, Jim Mahaffey, who was so good last year in winning it on a dash to the end. The Acacias have a good one also out there. So there are a lot of good, strong riders out there, and it may come down to the dash on that last couple of laps.
We'll be back with more of the Little 500 bicycle race after we pause for these messages. We're approaching the finish of 165 laps of this 200-mile Little 500 at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana this afternoon. It has been an exciting race, and one that has been filled with a number of accidents in the day, about 7 accidents in total, 5 of which brought out the yellow light, or the yellow flag, we should say. And one of those, Max, was the most serious of the day on the backstretch.
Here we see a replay on it. It happened just a few laps ago, about 8 or 9 bicycles involved, and there you can see them going down. The ATOs were involved, the Delta Tau Delta, Parks House, Rollins, Lambda Chi Alpha, and Hummer House, all involved. You see a couple of riders taking to the infield there to avoid it. That occurs at the back of the pack. They are the ones that are very vulnerable to this kind of thing. When someone wobbles up in front, when they go down, they have no place to go except down with them, and that's what exactly happened on that point. As we come back up now to live action, Don, there are your standings at the end of 160 laps.
Phi Delta Theta, of course, is leading the pack as they have through much of the afternoon. Sigma Alpha Epsilon is in 2nd place, Sigma Phi Epsilon in 3rd, Alpha Epsilon Pi in 4th, and Acacia is in 5th place. I believe, Max, that we're down to, what, 7 teams now that are on the same lap?
Well, one more dropped out. The ATOs were on that a moment ago. We're up in the top 10, and I think they must have fallen back a bit. We're not quite sure how back they have fallen at this point. Of course, there was a little bit of a controversy during that yellow a moment ago. Phi Delta Theta was the leading team, and everybody was supposed to slow down. The Phi Delts, who were the number 1 team, had to be cautioned by the public address announcer and by the chief steward to slow down. He was putting ground between himself and the remainder of the pack and had a considerable lead when the green came back out. It has fairly well evened up once again, although the Phi Delts continue to lead with team number 16, the Chi Phi's, in 2nd position as they now are coming across the start-finish line directly in front of us once again. Acacias continue to hang in there tough, as do the Sigma Phi Epsilon team as they head now into the number 2 turn and then down that long back stretch.
Max, at one point, just a few laps before that yellow, I believe the speed between the top 7 cyclists was just 1 second separating the top 7 teams.
That is a very, very close race. Of course, one of the things, Don, that's going on out there, the riders talk to each other constantly out there by I'm coming up behind, make room, or whatever else they might be saying. And they are in constant communication with each other. The Phi Delts now moving out once again. We'll see if they're going to make an exchange. They are going to make an exchange. The Acacia's also moving out, and they too probably are ready to make an exchange as they bring their men out. Now let's watch this exchange. Here's the Phi Delt as we've got another wreck at the end of the back of the pack. The Phi Delts continuing with their exchange, and now you see the shot of the wreck that has occurred. The bicycles being picked up, and they continue to move.
There were 6 teams involved in that accident, Max.
And one key one, the SAEs, who have come from so far behind, starting 28th and had moved up to be first for a while, involved in that wreck, and that's a tough break for the SAEs. Wrecks now, Don, at this time of the race, are awfully tough to overcome because you just don't have enough time left to make a...
Well, the crowd is loving every moment of it. There's 25,850 on hand here this afternoon, the 3rd largest crowd in Little 500 history, and it's going to come down to an exciting conclusion in this race.
Watch these fingers. At no time while operating a money mover 24-hour teller will they do anything complicated, as they perform a variety of important banking functions. Look simple? It is. Convenient, too. With a money mover card in your pocket, you and your fingers have access to modern banking in about 50 cities and towns in Indiana. Money Mover 24-hour teller.
They call it the Little 500, but the athletes who race in it know how big it really is. And out of this grueling competition for over 30 years comes the tradition of Roadmaster. Roadmaster bicycles. They've been pushed and punished, proven and improved. Frames are lighter and stronger. Components are tougher, more dependable. Roadmaster. It's a name you can count on for pleasure, for exercise, for unforgettable thrills. Roadmaster. Come ride with us.
Wallace, you gotta keep him out of there!
I'm used to him yelling, but not at me.
Push him out! Push him out! Out your best! Out your best! Budweiser Light!
The best never comes easy.
Nice game.
That's why there's nothing else like it.
Budweiser Light!
Here at the Little 500, we are about to go into the 191st lap of this race. 190 laps now complete. We have just 10 laps to go, Max, and it's going to be a race to the finish.
This one is shaping up just as the race last year was, where only a couple of seconds separate the teams that are still on the same lap, which now are about 8 teams, I guess. There you see them on your screen, the teams that are still on the lead lap and all have a chance to win, as only a couple of seconds separate them, as the strategy now for this late race is starting to take effect. The coaches can decide what they want to do. Do they want to put their sprinter on now, let him go the rest of the way, save him and let him run the last 3 laps? If you make an exchange, that slows it down a bit, so you've got to make those kinds of decisions.
Max, we talked about Phi Delta Theta all day long. The race that they have run has been so strong. Here is Acacia now making their change, and they also have run a very fine race.
They have indeed. The team that has done very well is the ATO House, which has been involved in 3 wrecks, and at the end of 185 laps, they were still in first place. Fortunately, they were not serious ones, and they were able to get up and go, but ordinarily when you have a wreck, it pretty much wipes you out. Here comes the Phi Delts by in first place. The ATO is running second at the moment as they go by just and into the first turn.
Max, of course, the final laps of this race are so important, especially if you have a chance to win it. Do you want to lead the race at this point? Because throughout most of this race, the idea was to just stay right at the front of the pack, but not necessarily lead.
Well, I think that still is going to stay in effect until we get up to about the 197th or 98th lap. And then at that point, you want to be in a position where you can win it. It's not all that critical at the moment that you lead it. As a matter of fact, the Phi Delts, which have led most of the time, have had to bear the brunt of breaking the lead up there and bearing that wind that's blowing pretty hard. They've not ridden much behind anybody else. Some of the other teams have kind of been drafted along much of the time.
We're down to 7 laps remaining, actually about 6.5 now, as Phi Delta Theta continues to be a big factor in this race. But they are in a pack now going around that third turn. And Max, we've had so many accidents in the third turn. You have to think that that has to be a factor as well, especially late here when everybody is going all out.
Well, we're getting changes. I was just handed the first 3 places, and then it changed again. So we'll have to try to check it for you as they come by. And it's the Sig Epps who went by in first place at the moment, although the Phi Delts were just along the line. And the Phi Delts now making a break to the outside. Now check that. That is not the Phi Delts out there. They continue to ride in the pack with the others.
And there's a bad exchange by Phi Delta Theta, Max, on the far side of the infield here. They just had a very poor exchange, and they are way behind the pack now. So they lost a lot of ground in that exchange.
They lost at least 50 to 75 yards. They're almost a whole end curve behind at the moment as the pack once again comes up. Now the ATOs coming by, they must be ready to make an exchange, probably their final one, as they're breaking out of the pack now, as we're now at 194 laps, 195 laps, just 5 to go.
This race is now 2 hours and 5 minutes old, and in the next 5 minutes we will have a winner here this afternoon at the Little 500 at Indiana University in Bloomington.
Well, the ATOs did not make an exchange. They now have moved out considerable ground. The pack will have to watch to see that they don't get too far ahead of them. We'll watch on the far side to see if they've got their man that's going to stay on there the rest of the way or if they'll make another exchange. We'll follow them. They've extended that lead considerably. The Sig Epps, the Wheelman, coming along second and third at the moment. Looks as if Acacia and the Phi Delts are in just a little bit behind right at the pack. And now the ATOs are swinging out and are going to be making exchange. And it is a good one.
There's no incident on the far side. As they make a good exchange, they stay in the hunt here as the race winds down to the final 5 laps here this afternoon. It has been an outstanding event. One of the great races here at the Little 500. And of course, it is boiling down to a tremendous finish here with 8 teams still in the same lap. But really, at this point, nobody can tell who's going to win it.
Well, the ATOs have the lead at the moment. The Wheelmen are running second right now at this stadium, which just yesterday was dedicated the Bill Armstrong Stadium in honor of Bill Armstrong, who served as leader and president of the foundation for some 30 years.
As they wind down, we're down to 197 laps completed. We're about to have the 197th done. We will have 3 laps to go. This race is boiling down to a hot finish, and the ATOs continue to be very, very strong here, Max.
They are indeed. They've opened up a good 20 to 25 yards over the Wheelmen, who are now running second. The Sig Epps are running third at the moment. But the space is between the first, second, and third teams at the moment. But now the ATOs are going to make another exchange.
And they do so, and they make a good exchange here. They will lose a little ground, but they will stay near the front of the pack. The Wheelmen, with their rider out there currently, Max, is breaking a lot of wind at this point. He looks like he's slowing down considerably.
And the pack is catching him now. The Wheelmen, of course, one of the independent housing units as compared to fraternities. And now...
One lap to go.
The ATOs have moved back out again. ATOs are in the lead, and it's now down to a fence. The Acacia's moving up on the outside.
And Acacia has run a tremendous race just according to their plan. And Acacia right now is about to take over the lead from ATO. They have done so. A 2-bike lead, and here comes Phi Delta Theta, also making a run at the end. And Acacia leading. Phi Delta Theta is the only one who can catch him. Acacia is going to win. Acacia wins the 33rd annual Little 500, a tremendous showing at the end.
That's their second win. They won back in 1961. They've been in 31 races. This is the 20th finish in the top 10, and the Acacias have won here this afternoon, running a very smart race. As we indicated earlier, their plan was to stay up about second or third, just on the outside, never getting any kind of trouble. They were never involved in a wreck, and they put on a final sprint on that last lap, and they won it with a hard charge from Phi Delta Theta, who came in second unofficially.
The winning team of the 33rd Little 500, Acacia. Congratulations, gentlemen. We'll let each of you introduce yourselves.
Hello, my name's Kerry Sears Patelski.
I'm Chris Richardson.
George Grubb.
Tom Schwegler.
Jeff Hilligoss.
And we'll let Tom do the talking for the team since he's the coach of the team. And Tom, congratulations on a great win. What was your race strategy today?
Well, we had watched the last year's running of the race Thursday night, and so we went through the entire race and analyzed it. And so we knew what we had to do. We knew we had to ride sixth bike pretty much all day. And if we rode there, we knew when we would come out to bust, by the time we got to the front of the pack, we would have enough of a jump on people that we could get away from it. And we could catch them by surprise. And we knew if we could stay out of the wrecks, we'd be in there at the finish. And again, I don't want to take anything away from Jim Mahaffey. He's a great bike rider, but I knew if it came down to a dead sprint, Jeff was going to win.
Tom, what about the last lap? When did you decide to break away?
Well, I think you should ask Jeff that, because we decided this year that we were going to go out and ride our own race. So when I put him on at lap 191, I said, you go out and you ride your race, and we'll take the trophy home.
Jeff, when did you decide to make the breakaway?
Well, when I came around the fourth turn on the second to last lap, I really didn't quite know that I was going to get the white flag, and I saw it out of the corner of my eye, said that's my cue, and I just went. And Leo was out in front hanging there. I don't know what he's doing. I sat on his wheel for a bit, and then I went around him, and I just didn't put my head back, just put my head down and ran.
Congratulations, Jeff. Great run. Tom, just a final thought about your team. You guys did a great job all afternoon. You kept to your strategy perfectly, didn't you?
Yes, these are four really, really great kids. One of them's a senior. I'm going to be sorry to see Chris go, but the other three guys are going to be back next year.
And next year after that.
Congratulations to Acacia. Great job. Well, the little 500 is history. Max Skirvin will bring in for a final comment or two. Max, just a thought here at the end of this race today. What a terrific race it was all the way through. Phi Delta Theta looked so strong, and then, of course, Acacia at the end.
Well, it was an exciting race. It was one that many predicted. They said there were probably 10 or 12 teams that this thing could win it, and certainly there were, and it just so it happened that the Acacias put the burst on at the end, but I'm sure there were 2 or 3 other fraternities or racing teams could have done just as well. But a great race, a great afternoon, and that's what makes the Little 500 the greatest college weekend in America.
For Max Skirvin, this is Don Fisher from the Little 500 at Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. So long, everybody.
They call it the Little 500, but the athletes who race in it know how big it really is. And out of this grueling competition for over 30 years comes the tradition of Roadmaster. Roadmaster bicycles. They've been pushed and punished, proven and improved. Frames are lighter and stronger. Components are tougher, more dependable. Roadmaster. It's a name you can count on for pleasure, for exercise, for unforgettable thrills. Roadmaster. Come ride with us.
The 1983 Little 500 was brought to you by Budweiser, proud sponsor of the U.S. Olympic team. For all you do, this Bud's for you. Indiana National, pioneers in banking, and Roadmaster Corporation. Come ride with us. This is Charlie Morgan reminding you that the Little 500 is a presentation of BCI and was pre-recorded.